Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me today. For this presentation, we will be discussing Dr. Anthony Fauci from the President's Coronavirus Task Force and some very interesting background regarding the very secretive Order of the Jesuits. And this might explain a little bit about his actions over the last few weeks. At a White House press briefing to address the coronavirus, when Donald Trump answered a reporter's question by saying, "You know what I'd like to do? I'd like him to go back to the State Department," or as they call it, the Deep State Department. Dr. Fauci immediately, unnecessarily, does a face palm, as if he can't control himself, ladies and gentlemen. This couldn't be further from the truth, as I suspect that this man has total control of his emotions, probably much more than any of us. And I'll explain why in a bit. When the president spoke in a very promising way on the hydrochloric cure possibility, America's favorite doctor then contradicted the president when the doctor was asked if this is a cure by saying the answer is no, because the evidence you're talking about is anecdotal. Now, anecdotal is defined as based on casual observations or indications rather than rigorous or scientific analysis. Pertaining to or consisting of anecdotes. A simple "we will see" or "time will tell" would have sufficed. This comment seems a bit overkill by the doctor. This man, Dr. Fauci, is highly intelligent. He must understand how that statement would be ran with the press, does he not? Here's some credentials. Anthony Stephen Fauci, born December 24th, 1940, is an American immunologist who serves as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and as a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force addressing the 2019-20 coronavirus pandemic. As a physician with the National Institutes of Health of the United States, he has served public health in various capacities for over 50 years. He has made contributions to HIV, AIDS research, and other immunodeficiencies, both as a scientist and as the head of the NIAID at the NIH. The rag New York Times called Fauci the nation's leading expert on infectious diseases. Fauci was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Stephen A. Fauci and Eugenia A. Fauci, owners of a pharmacy, where his father worked as the pharmacist. His mother and sister worked the register, and Fauci delivered prescriptions. Fauci's paternal grandparents, Antonio Fauci and Calogero Guardino, were from Sciacca, Italy. His maternal grandmother, Raffaella Trematera from Naples, Italy, was a seamstress. And his maternal grandfather, Giovanni Abis, was born in Switzerland and was an artist, noted for his landscape and portrait painting and magazine illustrations, as well as graphic design for commercial labels, including olive oil cans. His great-grandparents emigrated to the USA in the late 19th century, and Fauci grew up, obviously, Roman Catholic. Fauci attended Regis High School in New York City, where he graduated in 1958. He then enrolled at the College of the Holy Cross, where he received a bachelor's in classics in 1962. Fauci then went on to attend Cornell University Medical College, where he graduated first in his class with an MD in 1966. He then completed an internship and residency at the New York Hospital Cornell Medical Center. But he can't control his emotions and makes faces and gestures in the middle of a national press conference, like an adolescent. Right? Regis High School is a private Jesuit University preparatory school for Roman Catholic young men located on Manhattan's Upper East Side. Annual class enrollment is limited to approximately 135 male students from the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut tri-state area. So very exclusive. Not just anyone can enroll. The school is ranked as both the best Catholic high school in the United States and the best all-boys school in New York. Regis is also consistently ranked in the top 5 high schools in the nation in regard to SAT and ACT scores. St. Regis High School was founded in 1914 through the financial bequest of a single formerly anonymous benefactress, Julia M. Grant, the widow of Mayor Hugh J. Grant. She stipulated that her gift be used to build a Jesuit high school providing a free education for Catholic boys, with special consideration given to those who could not otherwise afford a Catholic education. The school continues that policy and does not charge tuition today. The Grant's former home is the residence of the Vatican Observer to the United Nations. This is where the Pope stays when he visits New York City. Now, if anyone out there is familiar with the Order of the Jesuits, you are making some serious connections here. We'll touch upon some of the basics of the Jesuits' methods of operation and some of their rituals. However, we cannot go too far, as we will be covering the Jesuits much more extensively in another presentation devoted entirely to this sun-worshipping cult. The Jesuits are possibly the most secretive, well-organized, disciplined, intellectual mystery school order of them all. In another presentation, I can take you from the 1500s and its founding by Spaniard Ignatius Loyola to the takeover of the Vatican, to the alliance with the Red Shield or the Rothschilds, to the war for independence, to the Civil War, all the way to modern times. They've played a role in all of this, and it's done usually by controlling both sides of a conflict or issue. They are and always will be masters of infiltration and subversion. Their main goal, like that with most of the mystery schools, is to destabilize every government or institution, and then to swoop in with a solution, their solution, usually consisting of them fixing the problem, but while leaving them in a new position of power over those whom have just experienced this problem or issue. Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution. And when, as this presentation is being created, we are getting ready to approve a $2 trillion loan from the Criminal Federal Reserve in order to fix the SARS-CoV-2 problem. It makes one wonder, doesn't it? This is how they operate, folks. And don't forget this fact, please. Admission to St. Regis is no joke. A prospective student is any 8th grader, baptized Roman Catholic male who has demonstrated superior academic ability, and first completes an application that includes the composition of multiple short essays, and then sits for Regis's own admission test. Of the approximately 1,000 students who sit for this test each year, about 230 are selected for 2 interviews with 1 faculty member and 1 alumni, and around 135 students are admitted. And that's today. I suspect it was much less back when the good doctor attended. There are also various publications that students can work on, such as the newspaper called The Owl, or their yearbook called The Region, as well as several literary publications such as their sports magazine called The Falcon, a journal of opinion called The Crow, and a movie review magazine called Flicks Picks, and a literary magazine called The Raven. Now, the owl, dear listeners, is a very important symbol to them. An owl can see in the dark. Occultists like to use the owl as one of their symbols because they can see things that the average person from the public cannot, or the profane, as they call us. Occult members are enlightened to the dark inner workings of the secret society. Think Bilderberg. They worship that owl and do mock sacrifices to it. The falcon, well, to them it symbolizes the story of the phoenix. In ancient Greek folklore, a phoenix is a long-lived bird that cyclically regenerates or is otherwise born again. And there's that rebirth again, if you've been following this channel. It further states that it's associated with the sun. A phoenix obtains new life by arising from the ashes of its predecessor. Some legends say it dies in a show of flames and combustion. Others that it simply dies and decomposes before being born again. This is mostly just a retelling of the dramas of Isis and Osiris. Please watch the videos on the mystery schools from this channel to see what it is that we are speaking about here. It's very important. Herodotus, Lucan, Pliny the Elder, Pope Clement, and Isidore of Seville are among those who have contributed to the retelling and transmission of the phoenix motif. The phoenix symbolized renewal in general, as well as entities and concepts such as the sun, time, the Roman Empire, Christ, Mary, and virginity. This bird is likely a falcon, and you will see that in another presentation on this channel. The editorial paper and an image on the school logo takes the name of the crow. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is yet another symbol for their devotion to the occult, and we will explain this in another presentation also. The sister school for St. Regis, the Covenant of the Sacred Heart, in Manhattan, would do joint plays and productions. One of these productions consisted of alumnus Lady Gaga, who attended the all-girls school, Jesuit Sacred Heart. She performed a musical at St. Regis. They're all in the family, dear listeners. Dr. Fauci then attended the College of the Holy Cross, where he received a bachelor's in classics in 1962. Now, what is a classics degree? Classics, or classical studies, is the study of classical antiquity. It encompasses the study of the Greco-Roman world, particularly of its languages and literature, like ancient Greek and classical Latin, but also of Greco-Roman philosophy, history, and archaeology. Traditionally in the West, the study of the Greek and Roman classics is considered one of the cornerstones of the humanities and a fundamental element of a rounded education. The study of classics has therefore traditionally been a cornerstone of a typical elite education. Ladies and gentlemen, this definition of a classics degree could also simply be referred to as the study of the mystery schools, as this covers many of the most well-known initiates, like Homer, Plato, Pythagoras, etc. I'd also like to point out that this is a very peculiar degree to go into if one is going into medicine, of which the good doctor was indeed doing, unless of course one was studying the history of his forefathers to better understand the exo and esoteric meanings of the great abstract truths of this world, preparing him for his future service to the order. Holy Cross is a private Jesuit liberal arts college in Worcester, Massachusetts, founded in 1843. Holy Cross is the oldest Catholic college in New England and one of the oldest in the United States. Opened as a school for boys under the auspices of the Society of Jesus, it was the first Jesuit college in New England. Holy Cross has traditionally drawn many of its students from a pool of historical Catholic high schools and private boarding schools. though a majority of current undergraduates come from public schools. I'd like to point out the seal of the Holy Cross seen here and this next picture, and you'll recall this if you've watched some of the Mystery Babylon series from this channel. A symbol of the Order of the Rose and Cross, one of the Jesuits' immediate predecessors, many say, which is really just the symbol of the zodiac cross. And of course, what would a mystery school cult be if they didn't have their zodiac and their sun or their Satan? The school color is purple. According to Wikipedia, there are two theories of how Holy Cross chose purple as its official color. One suggests it was derived from royal purple used by Constantine the Great as displayed on his military standard and on those of later Christian emperors of Rome. And again, if you've been watching this channel, you'll know that Constantine was the one who morphed the sun-worshipping Roman Empire into the Catholic Church, and that sun worship is still practiced in many Catholic churches today, ladies and gentlemen, whether the priest and the parishioners even know it or not, and most don't. Written in the book is the college's motto, In hoc signo vinces, which translates as, by this sign thou shalt conquer. The phrase is credited to our favorite Roman Emperor Constantine, and these signs are still seen all over today. A few graduates from here that some of you may know are Chris Matthews, who recently retired from MSNBC, like all those CEOs who keep retiring every other day. Several alumni have held top positions in the world of business and finance. Bob Wright, Chairman and CEO NBC Universal. He was also Vice Chairman of General Electric. James David Power III, that's J.D. Power and Associates founder. William J. McDonough, President of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and Vice Chairman of Merrill Lynch. Ever heard of Dick Cusack? Well, maybe you've heard of his children. Actors John Cusack, Joan Cusack, or Ann Cusack. Wow, what are the odds? One man having 3 kids that all break into Hollywood and become successful actors. Yes, they're hidden everywhere, folks. You just have to open your eyes and look. Dr. Fauci took a job at the National Institute of Health directly after school, a place he still works today. He met his wife there, Christine Grady. She's an American nurse and bioethicist who as of 2020 serves as the head of the Department of Bioethics at the National Institutes of Health Clinical Center. Bioethics is the study of the ethical issues emerging from advances in biology and medicine. It is also moral discernment as it relates to medical policy and practice. Bioethics are concerned with the ethical questions that arise in the relationships among life sciences, biotechnology, medicine, and medical ethics, politics, law, theology, and philosophy. She has her BS and her PhD from Georgetown U, another Jesuit college. And she's a social justice warrior, which probably isn't good when you're in charge of ethics. In a March 24th article from Heavy.com, she is quoted as saying, quote, "She was inspired to pursue nursing as a career by her parents, who instilled it in her a sense of civic responsibility." Grady told the NIH in 1997 that, "When we were children, I can remember at young ages going on civil rights marches and things like that, because my parents took us there. We did not know what they were really about, because at the time, although I was older than some of my brothers and sisters, I was not that old. So some of the things did not register directly then, but I think they had an impact later on. So I have always been interested." Again, there was my parents' influence in social issues. figures, because here is Doctor with Hillary Clinton, and I think that's his wife in the front left with the white coat at some function. Dr. Fauci has won a few Cabal awards, like the 2013 Robert Koch Gold Medal, the Arthur S. Fleming Award in 1979, and George W. Bush awarded him the National Medal of Science and a Presidential Medal of Freedom Award in 2008. According to the Holy Cross magazine, in their summer of 2002 edition, they interviewed America's favorite doctor, and they had this to say about his attending St. Regis High. Quote, "The distance he had to travel to get there is difficult to explain, for reasons of time or geography, and also for reasons of culture. The trip took 75 to 80 minutes each way. A bus and 3 subways during rush hour in both directions. By rough calculation, all the time he spent commuting during his 4 years at Regis, it cost him more than 70 days. That's a long ways to travel to school, folks." Fauci often credits part of his professional success to the inculcation of Jesuit intellectual rigor. That was a core part of his education. An emphasis on organization and logic, on succinctness and clarity of expression. And we spoke about this a little earlier. The Jesuits are very intellectual and meticulous in their duties. If Dr. Fauci is an agent of the Jesuits sent into the U.S. medical apparatus to do the greater work, then he would have been young when they would have began watching him. Since many Jesuits control many high schools and universities throughout the country and world, then they could, according to a manuscript found in the library of the Rue Rijalou at Paris, entitled History of the Jesuits in 1709, says that they mold the youthful mind according to their secret aims. If then, after a number of years, they detected in the pupil a blind and fanatic faith, they proceeded to initiate him. There are many levels of degrees for the Jesuits, just like all of the sun-worshipping cults. The Jesuits are closely related to the Rosicrucians, the Gnostics, and the Skull and Bones. We know 3 famous Skull and Bonesmen, don't we? George Bush Jr., George Herbert Walker Bush, and John Kerry. These 3 mystery school orders have all been rumored to use actual body parts like bones or skulls or other parts of special people or saints as relics and used during their rituals. If the good doctor is an agent of the order, he would be a perfect fit. Highly intelligent, obviously highly motivated and highly disciplined. And look at him, highly inconspicuous, and then having made entry into an important American institution, just like the unelected deep state does so well. Right out of college, I'd like to point out. And he is able to then immediately begin to promote up to the director position he holds today. He finished number 1 in his medical school at Cornell U, where he got his doctorate. He was so motivated and so disciplined that he drove the subway one way for an hour and a half and then an hour and a half back home, 5 days a week. If he is doing the greater work of the order and is a high-ranking member, then, according to a book by researcher Carlos Didier, the doctor would have been called to the chapel of the Covenant of the Order, where there are only 3 others present. The principal or superior standing in front of the altar, and on either side would stand a monk, one of whom holds a banner of yellow and white, which are the papal colors. And the superior then says to the candidate, My son, heretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler, which is defined as to disguise or conceal behind a false appearance. Among Roman Catholics, to be a Roman Catholic, and to be a spy even among your own brethren. To believe no man, to trust no man, and obtaining their confidence, that you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope. You have been taught to insidiously plant the seeds of jealousy and hatred between communities, provinces, states that were at peace, and incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous. Cultivating the arts and the sciences and enjoying the blessings of peace. To take sides with the combatants and to act secretly with your brother Jesuit, who might be engaged on the other side, but openly opposed to that with which you might be connected. Only that the order might be the gainer in the end, in the conditions fixed in the treaties for peace, and that the ends justify the means. And you've heard that saying if you've been following this channel. You have been taught your duty as a spy to gather all statistics, facts, and information in your power from every source. To ingratiate yourself into the confidence of the family circle of every class and character, as well as that of the merchant, the banker, the lawyer, among the schools and universities, in parliaments and legislatures, and the judiciaries and councils of state. And the good doctor would have recited the following. Listen close. That I may go to any part of the world, whither so far I may be sent, to the frozen regions of the north, the burning sands of the deserts of Africa, or the jungles of India, to the centers of civilizations of Europe, or to the wild haunts of the barbarous savages of America, without murmuring or repining, and will be submissive in all things whatsoever communicated to me. I further promise and declare that I will, when opportunity present, make and wage relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, as I am directed to do, to exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' heads against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their execrable race. That when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poisoned cup, the strangulating cord, the steel of the poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed so to do by any agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. If you enjoyed this presentation, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.